Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen, Rav Shmuel with you, Rashbi, with this week's 10-minute Torah. Hope you're keeping cool enough. I know there's a heat wave in Southern California, so maybe some of you that are in other parts of the country are not feeling the heat so much, but, I will tell you that we certainly are, of course. Me personally, I kind of like the heat, but that's just me. Okay, so this week, we have a double portion that pretty much ends the book of Numbers, Mattot and Masei. And Mattot are the heads, Ot is the feminine plural, and it is they are the heads of the tribes. Masei are the travels. So the end of Numbers leaves us with kind of a travelogue of the journeys and where they stayed, the Israelites, during the 39 years of their wanderings in the wilderness. So once again, we have our triennial cycle. So let's take a look at that first. The portion, our double portion, the first part of it, the first portion in our double portion, Mattot, opens up with the idea of vows and oaths. Now, vows and oaths can be very confusing. Yes, they are two different things. A neder is a vow, and a shavua is an oath. So the difference, the distinction, is that the vow involves an object. An oath involves a behavior. So, for example, if someone says for the next 30 days, I'm going to deny myself ice cream because I love ice cream and I want to kind of repent. Now, if this sounds vaguely familiar to somebody, yes, the 40 days of Lent in the Christian religion and the 30 days of the month of Ramadan in the Islam religion. And where I got it from, folks, it's, there's nothing new under the sun. But it's a very noble idea. The fact that you're kind of inflicting, I don't want to say a punishment, but kind of a restriction, and that way you kind of bear in mind why you're doing it, while you're denying yourself something that you really like, and it kind of brings to mind the idea that you got a little bit of repenting to do. Or as Desi Arnaz would say, Lucy, you've got some explaining to do. Okay, as opposed to that, an oath is something that you're going to do or not do. It doesn't involve an object. Maybe you're going to be in services on time for the next month. That'd be great. For example, I want to make a minyan, so that's what I'm going to do. So, difference between an oath and a vow. Now, it is specifically addresses the idea of woman taking on a vow or an oath. Now, if a woman is a minor child under the spiritual age of, say, 13 or 12, or is still in her father's house, has not gotten married or betrothed yet, and she utters a vow, and the father hears it, the father is allowed to nullify the vow. Likewise, if a woman is married and she utters a vow or an oath, and her husband hears it, he is allowed to nullify that. But I believe he's got a few, just like a day to do it. He can think about it, he can stew about it a little bit, but once a certain time period goes by, that's it. You're done. You're obligated. And the only other way to get out of that vow or the oath is to go before a Beit Din, a court of three, and say, I didn't realize what it involved. So I took on more than I can chew. Now, here's the big question. Why is it that a man can nullify the oath or vow of a female, depending on the circumstances? And it really, you kind of look at something like this in this day and age when we're striving for equality. Women are becoming rabbis and cantors, they're leading congregations. The whole idea of them putting on tefillin, especially by the Western Wall in Israel, they want equality. And hey, more power to them. But we have to look, when we're looking at the Torah, we ought to be looking at context and not just judging it from our point of view. Because back then, the genders had very specific roles. Men would go out into the fields and work, or they would either farm the land, they would shepherd their cattle or their flocks, and they were basically gone most of the day. The woman, on the other hand, because they gave birth and because they weaned their children, were responsible for bringing up the family. So they were mostly involved in the family. Now, it is said that men are on a lower spiritual level than women because we have to deal with lusts and passions that while women feel, they don't feel it necessarily to the extent that men do. And this is not a value judgment. This is physiological. Men, you know, produce the hormone testosterone. It makes us aggressive. It does. We're assertive. Whereas women more estrogen, and it doesn't seem to have the effect. So men are more active physically, whereas women are more active emotionally. Now we can debate this, and there are certainly other opinions, but from the point of view of the Torah, this was the roles of the gender. And if you were to make a judgment on which was more important, one might contend that the woman had the more important job of raising a family, raising responsible and moral and ethical children, right? So women really did not have the time to study Torah the way men do. Okay, men go and they till the field. Yes, they're gone most of the day, but there are periods when you're watering, you're planting, and you're kind of lax, so you can study Torah. And because men have more of an obligation with the Torah, that is, men have to obey or comply with all 613 of the mitzvot, the commandments. Women don't. Women are released from the obligation to observe the positive time-based commandments like prayer. Why? Again, because they're busy with the kids. They're busy taking care of the household, cooking the food that the men come in and here it is, and when's dinner, right? So you might even say that women are more busy or busier than men are throughout the course of the day. And again, these are traditional roles based on the physiology of the genders. No value judgment here, folks. It's nothing where anybody's saying one is better than the other. It's the old saying, you need two to tango. In this case, two different genders, men and women. So that's the point of view. So since women are not engaged or as engaged in the study of Torah as men, they might not know certain implications of taking on a vow or an oath. And according to Torah, if you take on a vow or an oath, then you are obligated to now 614 commandments instead of 613, because you've decided that you want to take on an extra commandment for whatever reason. It's very similar to the Nazarite that takes on, three additional commandments. No gray products, no touching a corpse, and don't cut your hair. 3 commandments. So now you've got 616. That and the Nazir is actually a vow. It is, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to avoid for the next, let's say, 30 days. And again, somebody feels like they stray. Now, people say, some rabbis would go on and say, why would you do that? Why would you do it anyway? You've got, your life isn't busy enough with 613 commandments. You need another one. But if you're living in Israel and it's 2,500 years ago and you've got a temple in Jerusalem, the commandments are actually basic. It's just a part of your life. It's like getting up, brushing your teeth, washing your hands, getting in your car, driving to work. You go to work, you do your job, you come home, you eat. That was life. About 200 plus commandments are involved with the temple and are involved with offerings. And that's something that the priests and the Levites take care of. All you do is bring the animal or whatever, or the grain, and bam, it's taken care of for you. As far as the holidays and the festivals, everybody's doing it. So it's just part of the culture. As far as Shabbat goes, there's nothing really to turn off. You prepare everything on Friday afternoon. You hang out, maybe you go hang out with the Levites and you study, and then you come home, you eat, and next thing you know, it's evening and you're back to starting the week. So it really kind of flows when you're in that environment. It is only out here in the diaspora that it becomes real challenging. So in a sense, vows and oaths today don't really have the same intent or the same force that they did back then. So it's, and again, it is what it is. You really have to look at these things in terms of context. Now, how would we approach something like that today? Well, again, men and women share responsibilities in the home. We have two income families. There's a new industry of childcare, right, that they didn't have back then necessarily. So, it's a different world. So, would that make sense today? Probably not, because women are in the care of studying. But again, if you have a man that's more involved in studying Torah, or maybe a woman that's more involved in studying Torah and says to her husband or her boyfriend, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to do that for 30 days. Forget it. No, there it is. Anyway, again, this is a Torah. This is our triennial cycle. That and the fact that God wants us to harass the Midianites for them trying to tempt us into aberrant sexual behavior. And there's our reading for today. Speaking of which, we will see you in synagogue and we will read the Torah and hope to see you there. Thank you very much and Shabbat Shalom.